Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Book Talks with Yo. My name is Yoanna and today I'm sharing with you 7 writing lessons I learned in 2020. This year is almost over, so it's time for me to reflect on my writing. And I really wish I could say that this was a very strong writing year, because the second half of the year was strong indeed, but the first one was meh. But that's alright. This is why in my video where I shared with you my writing goals for 2021 last week, I told you that one of my resolutions was to write more in the next year, and we are going to stick to that. But still, this year taught me a few valuable lessons about writing, and today I'm sharing 7 of those with you. The first lesson is one that I did not exactly learn in 2020, but one that I definitely affirmed for myself this year, and it is a very simple one. Writers write. I know that it sounds very logical, but I had to remind myself that a few times. And I read a great quote some time ago that I tried to find but I couldn't, and it goes something like, if you want to be the noun, you have to do the verb. And I think that it applies to this situation a lot, because many people want to call themselves writers, including myself, but are actually afraid to sit down and seriously write. And I can say that this year I devoted a lot more time to writing and working on my different projects, and I'm really proud with this. And one thing that really helped me was the reminder that the beginning is the scariest part and maybe the hardest, because looking at the empty page feels very intimidating. But once you start, it gets better. And the second reminder was that even if you feel that you have nothing to say and you don't know what to write about, once you start writing, you will figure it out and words will just come to you. And yeah, those 2 reminders really helped me deal with my perfectionism and my fear of failure, which had led me to not devoting time to writing in the previous years. But yeah, as I said, there is still a lot to be improved, a lot more I want to achieve in terms of writing, and I'm hoping to continue improving this in 2021. The next lesson I learned this year is that first drafts can be as messy as you want them to be. I know that we all say this, especially when it comes to NaNoWriMo, but this year I finally started truly living by this statement. The previous 2 times I've participated in NaNoWriMo, I was trying to to improve my story as I go, and I was trying to make it perfect, and I was giving myself a hard time because I felt like the story was just bad and that I had to fix it, or otherwise there was no point in writing it at all. But this year I did a lot better, because I let myself just write, and I constantly reminded myself that first drafts are just you building the skeleton of the story, and they're just you telling yourself your story, so they can be as messy as you want them to be. And I admit that there were a few instances where I would just look at my story for a moment and start feeling bad, because I thought the writing was not good enough and that I wouldn't be able to fix it. But I stopped myself and I just reminded myself that this is just a first draft, and there was a lot of work to be done afterwards before anyone else could see it. So yeah, this really changed a lot of things, because it made the process more enjoyable. I fell in love with the process, and I did not only look at the final destination and look forward to reaching that, I just fell in love with the process, as cliched as it may sound. Next very valuable lesson I learned this year is that just because you haven't done something before doesn't mean you cannot do it. I mostly write new adult romantic books, so this YA contemporary novel that I worked on during November and that I started planning for in April intimidated me a lot at the beginning. It is something I haven't done before, and moreover I have 10 main characters from 8 different countries with very different backgrounds, and each has their unique story. And I was really intimidated by the whole idea of writing about so many characters. And moreover, I'm usually writing in the third person omniscient, but this story is in the third person limited POV. So what I'm trying to say is that everything about this novel was very new to me, still is new to me, and when the idea popped up in my head in April, I think it was in April, yeah, after the initial excitement that usually comes with a new story idea, I started dreading this. I felt this fear that I wouldn't be able to write this because it was bigger than anything I've written before. I felt like I wasn't good enough to write something like this. And I remember in April, I wrote very, very extensive character profile sheets for all of my 10 characters. But this actually spooked me a lot more from writing this. And I didn't do anything until October because I was persuading myself that even if I tried, I wouldn't be able to do it, that I wasn't good enough as a writer to write something so big and so important. But in November, I tried to forget about this fear and I did it. I wrote it. Of course I know that now I have a lot of editing and a lot of revising to do, but I still proved myself that just because I haven't done this thing doesn't mean I cannot try and I cannot do it. Next lesson I learned is to actively seek feedback and criticism on my works and take it objectively. Back in the beginning of spring, it was about the beginning of spring, I sent my previous manuscript to a almost complete stranger that I was talking to on Bookstagram because she expressed a desire to read it and give me her thoughts on it. And I admit, I was very scared to read her feedback. But then I started reading her notes and I reminded myself to read them objectively and not read them defensively like, this is my book, my baby, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, nothing like this. I read it objectively, separating myself from my story and my characters, and it was great. Her notes helped me a lot, gave me an insight on things that I haven't thought about, and I believe this made my story a lot better. So this told me that even though it might be a very scaring experience, it is one that it can be very beneficial. So yeah, I would continue seeking for feedback and criticism on my further works. Another interesting lesson that I learned this year is that inspiration can really be found anywhere. You just have to open your mind and your eyes to all the possibilities. Let me give you an example. Right now I'm at university and my degree is English literature and creative writing. But alongside with this, I have to choose other modules in order to reach the needed credit to pass the module. This is the system in Scotland. And after I chose my literature module and after I chose Spanish, which I've been learning for the past 2 years, I still needed to choose another module to pass the semester. And I had to choose a philosophy one. It's good that we are free to choose, but I didn't really have that much choice. I didn't have that many to choose from, so I chose a philosophy module, and it's about existentialism and phenomenology. And I've been studying this the whole past semester. While some parts were interesting, I quickly found out this is not for me, and I'm just trying to finish the year. But what I find very interesting is that some parts of it, some of the things we were learning, actually inspired my writing directly or non-directly, and this made me realize that everything around me can be an inspiration for my writing. And I just started paying a lot more attention to the things I was doing or the things I was experiencing, because as I said, inspiration is everywhere. You just have to open your eyes and open your heart and just start seeking for it. Next writing lesson is a more concrete one, and this is that flashcards work wonders as a plot mapping method for me. And I've tried a few other methods of plotting out my story before, but I've never tried writing the different scenes on flashcards. But I did it for this story as it seemed appropriate, and I think I have around 90, a bit more, 90 flashcards, but in a way it's so easy and so convenient for me to follow the things that are happening in the story, think of the scenes that I've already written, and yeah, it's just working great for me. I think so far this is the best plotting method I've tried, although I haven't tried that many. But yeah, I might try for my next story as well, although I'm not sure whether it would work for all types of novels, but there's only one way to find out. And the last lesson I learned in 2021 was how to overcome this imposter syndrome. And what this is basically the feeling that you are not good enough, that you start doubting yourself, your abilities, your accomplishments, and just everything you do and have done. And it usually happens to almost all creators, no matter how big or small they are, and no matter whether they are a singer, a painter, a writer, a chef, a video creator, whatever. It is something that happens to all of us, and it's a completely irrational fear. And therefore, the good thing is that it's something that you can overcome. I have experienced this self-doubt a lot when it comes to my writing, but this year I've genuinely been doing a lot better because I'm learning how to recognize and overcome this imposter syndrome when it hits me. And if you're also struggling with this, I will give you a few advice. A thing I'm doing when I feel this self-doubt and I start doubting everything I do and whether I'm good enough and whether I'm actually, if it is worth it doing it, is I remind myself of my whys. I mean, why I am doing this, why I love this. And also remind yourself of all the achievements you've accomplished, no matter how small or big, because this will help you separate feelings, or those irrational feelings, from facts, the things you've actually done. And accomplishments doesn't have to be something you've published or something you've won. It might be even if you've moved only one person with your writing, because I'm giving an example for writing. This is an accomplishment enough, and you should keep on going. And the other advice I would give you is to be your own fan, be your own hype man, be like, remind yourself, you got this, you have it in yourself, and you can do this. I do it myself. I tell myself when I start feeling down, I'm like, no, girl, you got this. You got this. You can do it. And it sounds ridiculous, but it really helps. And yeah, it's a slow process, but I'm slowly learning how to overcome this. And I might even make a separate video talking about overcoming imposter syndrome, because I think it's a common issue, but we'll see. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up today's video. I really hope you enjoyed watching, and if you did, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on my new videos. Please let me know down in the comments what are some writing lessons you learned this year. And thank you once more for watching, and I really hope to see you all next time. Until then, have a smiley week. Bye!